All right, so Angie, thank you very much for coming today.
Mhm.
And again, thank you very much for answering our questions that our ECC students have for you. So let's go ahead and get started. All
Okay.
right, so I know I did a little bit of this first question already, but what is your name and what do you do at PADS?
So my name is Angie DeLeon, and I'm the office manager and also the volunteer coordinator.
All right,
Here.
perfect.
Mhm.
Short, sweet, and simple. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so can you give us a general overview of PADS and what services PADS provides?
Yes. So we are now a 24/7 shelter since COVID. We used to have a 2-hour gap every morning, Monday through Friday. Guests would leave at 7 in the morning and return at 9 a.m. for the day program. And then the day program closed at 4, so they would have to leave again until 7 p.m. But when COVID started, actually a lot of our guests used to go hang out at the K building there at ECC.
Oh,
And then when that started to shut down, the whole world shut down that March of 2020, we revisited being open 24/7. And thanks to some emergency funding, we were able to get that put into place pretty quickly. And since then, we've remained 24/7. And I know COVID's still around, but I honestly don't see us going back to having those few gaps each day. So the plan is that we're going to stay open 24/7.
okay. All right,
Um,
perfect.
so besides being open 24/7, we provide at least 3 meals a day. I say at least because people donate snacks all the time. We get Starbucks stuff, so there's always snacks out. We have shower facilities, and we have a guest laundry facility with
Oh,
2 washers and 3 dryers, so they can sign up to do that as needed. And most importantly, we have our case management services. So we have case managers that meet with the clients together. They come up with a plan for each individual. Um, and, some of it is, getting signed up for certain benefits that they might qualify for. Some people are signing up for disability. That sometimes takes a long time. Sometimes they just need to find better paying jobs or more affordable housing. So it might be getting signed up for different housing programs, um, and those usually involve a wait list. But the case managers know all those resources for them.
all right, perfect. Pretty straightforward. I appreciate that. And I didn't know you guys had snacks. I might stop over there.
We've even gotten stuff, before COVID, sometimes ECC would drop stuff off, things that were going to be expiring soon that they had in the cafeteria, and they would bring them over, which was perfectly fine.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, so then what are the requirements to being accepted into the shelter?
So the initial requirements is that everybody has to have some type of a photo ID, even if it's an expired ID. We basically just need to prove that the person who's standing in front of us is who they say they are. So some type of a photo ID and a community connection, which usually the most common would be a photo ID that has an address in our service area. So clearly if they're from our service area, that would suffice. But sometimes they have an old ID that is, from where they lived at 10 years ago or whatever, but they've been in this area for a long time. So if they're working in this area, they could show check stubs to prove that they work around here, and that's their connection. Sometimes it's living with a friend or a family member, but they have recent mail, and that is their community connection. So they have to have those 2 things initially. Once I've established that they have that, case managers do a background check on them, and they're mostly looking for like a violent criminal history, and we don't take sex offenders. So assuming that they pass that background check, then that's a go. And right now we're also requesting a negative COVID test.
All right, perfect. All right, so then I'll skip to this question since it seamlessly flows into it. So let's say someone doesn't have a photo ID. Is there anything else they could provide to prove who they are, or is it just the photo ID?
Um, unfortunately, it does have to be some kind of a photo ID. I've had people show, like a work badge where it's got their picture, but
Oh,
because that work badge doesn't have, like a birth date, then they could show their birth certificate to prove their birth date. Because the birth date is something that we ask for when we're doing the background check.
okay.
So, we've even had, people that showed us an old high school ID because it's got their picture. I mean, these people were probably like in their early 20s, so there wasn't a huge difference, in the appearance, but, so we've even made that work before.
Okay, perfect.
And also for children,
Mhm.
um, they don't have to have a photo ID because clearly that would be hard for a child, but, the parent does have to show a birth certificate or a social security card for each child.
That's good to know.
Mhm.
All right, so then with the shelters, is it co-ed or do you have separate male and female shelters?
So it's all one shelter, but we have one sleeping room designated for men, and then there's a separate, room for women. And then children, can stay, with either parent, until they're about 13, and then they have to go to the appropriate room.
Okay, understandable.
Mhm.
All right, so then I know this might be a super redundant question, but do people need to bring anything to the shelter if they're accepted in there, or can they just, and then you guys give them stuff?
Yeah. You know what? We've had people show up with nothing but the information they need to get into the shelter, the ID and, the COVID test.
Mhm.
We have a clothing room. Um, we've got so many donated, different types of clothing and shoes and coats and, um, pretty much everything, that people would need. We have all the toiletries that people would need. All those things are donated to us on a regular basis. In fact, people are so generous between like October and through the holidays that, we're using a really good place like January and February. So I've been turning away a lot of donations the last couple months
Oh,
just
wow.
because we're in a really good place. And I just don't want to hoard everything because I know there's other people that could use it. So, I always give suggestions on other places they could call.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so then is there a curfew time to where they need to be back at the shelter, or how does that work?
Yes. So, the curfew is 9:30 p.m. unless they're working or if they've talked to their case manager and the case manager knows that, they're visiting, somebody or something, as they'll write out a pass, and, establish a new time that they need to be back by.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, nice. I'm glad you guys are so accommodating.
Yeah. We
So let's
try.
see. Right, I appreciate it. All right, so then let's see about this next one then. All right, so guests. Can someone staying at the shelter have guests over?
You know, um, since COVID, definitely not. Um, but before COVID, yes, and I would imagine at some point we might get back to that. Um, a lot of times they'll usually like get picked up if they're gonna hang out with somebody.
Right.
So that's usually the better thing because then we have to like have them sign like a confidentiality something because in case they know somebody here, we need to know that these people aren't going to go telling other people that so and so is staying here. So we really try to keep it, confidential as far as, who our guests are. Even when people call and say, "Oh, I need to talk to so and so," I never say, "Oh, let me go get them." I say, "I can't confirm or deny that that person stays here, but I can go post a message and if they're here, they would get the message." And we kind of leave it at that.
Okay, perfect.
We really take that serious that we don't want everybody knowing who's here because we don't know that it's okay with our guests. So,
Right, which is understandable.
yeah. Yep.
All right, so I know you guys probably have a lot of rules there. So this next question would be, what would need to happen for someone to be kicked out of the shelter, or essentially what's not tolerated there?
Right. Well, definitely like violence, drug, any type of drugs, alcohol use on the premises. Um, and if they're not participating in the case management services. So, together with their case manager, they came up with this plan and they signed off on it. And if they're not working toward those goals to achieve those, that plan, then that's reason to be exited from the program.
Okay,
So,
pretty straightforward.
yeah. hmm I mean, we want them to succeed. So the case managers are, only putting in the plan things that are going to benefit them. And if they're not, sticking with that plan, then, this isn't a place that they can expect to stay at forever. So they really need to abide by that.
Definitely. All right, so then speaking of case managers, what are the requirements to obtain a case manager?
It's pretty much a given, although usually they wait about a week to assign them to a case manager because some people come here, they had some type of an argument or something with a family member or friend. So they wait to see, are they going to be here like at least a week? Once they've been here for close to a week, that's when they're assigned a case manager. Just because we don't want the case managers, like wasting time for somebody that's going to be here for 2 days and then, oh, so-and-so is going to let me back and then they're gone and they've spent a lot of time, trying to come up with a plan for this guest. So usually within a week, they have a case manager.
Okay. And I know you answered this next one a little bit with the other questions, but what are the duties of a case manager?
Well, they're always trying to find out what other social services in our area provide different things. We get calls all the time from like agencies that maybe provide like free legal consultations or whatever. So they're really good about sharing that information with. There's 3 case managers. 2 of them are part-time though. So they're good about sharing all that information with each other. I get calls sometimes. I got one just last week for a new, it's not new, but I had not heard of it. They provide free legal counsel in their downtown Elgin. So, whenever we hear about things like that, we make sure we share it so everybody's aware. And our lead case manager is in on these meetings that happen regularly with other social service groups. So they're in constant, contact with each other on new things that they're seeing or providing, and just sharing all that information with each other. So.
All right, nice. All right,
Yeah.
so that perfectly segues into the next question. So what referral sources is PADS partnered with?
Many. I know AID, we have some guests here that are also clients of AID. Ecker, same, we work with a lot of the same clients. Two Rivers Head Start is another one. They sometimes provide financial assistance when a client gets housed and is trying to come up with like the security deposit. Along with, the other shelters. In fact, just today we get like those linkage letters that show, we're, still partnered and working with Hesed House, Lazarus House. Yeah, so those are all the ones that come to mind, but I'm sure there's more.
Oh, I'm pretty sure there's more.
Yes,
Yeah,
there is
definitely.
definitely more.
All right, very nice.
Oh, I know another one, the rapid rehousing.
Oh, yeah.
That I've been here like 3 years and only in the last like year or so did I start hearing a lot about that, but they've been very regularly coming in like once a week and they'll meet with, certain clients, certain of our guests. And sometimes, I mean, like things like that, now I understand why they're called rapid rehousing, because they do sometimes, they'll meet with somebody and within 3 days, that person's in an apartment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, and they've been coming here and interviewing people, at least one person, for like the last month or so, they come every week. So, yeah, so that's another good program that we have a good relationship with.
All right. I'm going to note that down after this interview. These students, I could use that also. All right. So speaking of our students, are there any jobs or volunteer opportunities? And if so, what are the requirements, or where can people go to find out the requirements?
Okay. Well, you mentioned jobs and volunteering. So right now we do have, it's actually a site coordinator we're looking for a full-time and a part-time. So basically, those individuals, they're just like here to answer whatever questions, or whatever needs the guests have. In the evening, it would involve like putting out the dinner. On the weekends, it could be, setting out lunch or breakfast. They also do, handing out toiletries as they need them, taking the attendance. When we convert from the day program to the evening, temperatures are taken. Every time people come back into shelter, everybody gets breathalyzed. And they also are the ones responsible for unlocking the medicine cabinet when somebody needs to take medication. They're not actually administering the medication, but they unlock the cabinet, and then there's a log book. Once they give the person their bin with their medications, the individual takes it on their own, but then they have to sign off on a sheet, both the employee, so that would be the site coordinator, and the individual, the guest. So right now we have those two jobs posted on Indeed. And as far as volunteering, right now all of our volunteers do have to be vaccinated, and we do ask to see proof of that. But mostly our volunteers, they organize the clothing room or our food pantry, or our, we have like a coat room area. And when donations come, a lot of times during the day, we're just so busy, we just kind of throw it back there. And then when a volunteer comes in, they help sort it, put it in the proper room. And our clothing room, I mean, all it takes is like 2 people to go in there and look for stuff, and it's another hot mess. So that always needs to be organized, and, hoodies refolded or whatever.
Right.
So yes, there is a volunteer application that can be found on our website. They can print it out and then send it back, or I get a lot of calls asking about volunteering. So then I just email that individual the forms, because then there's an electronic signature feature, so they could sign the form and email it back to me. I do a background check, and mostly like looking for like retail theft, because we do get a lot of stuff like donated clothing wise that's got tags on it and stuff. So that's really the only thing that I'm looking for. So that's pretty much it. And I actually did a ECC at like a fair maybe 2 years ago or so, and I participated and got a group of volunteers that signed up. And I think a couple of them did come for a while, but yeah.
All right, definitely. I did not know that about the retail theft. I'm learning new things every day.
Yeah.
All right, so then that goes to the next question. I know you answered this already, but can people donate to the shelter? And if so, what are they able to donate?
Mhm. On our website, we actually have a needs list, and then there's even an Amazon wish list, which the Amazon list has like new things that we then pass on to the guests when they move out. So, dishes and bakeware and stuff like that. There's also headphones, because somebody's always losing their headphones. So we put on that on there so that when guests, because that's not something that we can really spend money on. Being a nonprofit, we can't do that, but If people want to donate, it's okay for us to have a stock of those that we can hand out to people as we need to. So, but yeah, shelter supplies like paper goods. We go through a lot of toilet paper, paper towels, napkins, paper plates, stuff like that. So things like that are always welcome to be donated. When COVID started, hand sanitizers, masks, gloves, stuff like that, it was so hard to come by whenever people, because I would send out an email like once a week to my contacts. And people were always like, oh, I got my hands on, 2 boxes of Clorox wipes, I'll drop them off, and so now we have an abundance of all those things.
Nice.
So we're in a good place with all those things, but yeah, so definitely, shelter supplies like that is what I consider it. And when people want to donate something, but we're in a good place with our shelter supplies, I always suggest gift cards like to Walmart, because when we do need things, that's usually where I shop. I'll go like do a Walmart pickup order and get what we need. So it's kind of nice to have those for, March through October when we're not getting as many donations. And then I can use those gift cards to purchase what we need. And of course, money we would never turn away.
There you go. Yeah, money is always great. I can agree. All right, so then I know we're getting to the end of my questions, but the last question here, is there anything else you would like to tell us about PADS that I did not ask about?
You know what? I don't know that I talked about our service area. So we don't go by town or county, which most people think, oh, well, I live in Kane County, but for some reason, the shelters are broken down by township. So we service Elgin Township, Hanover Township, Dundee Township, and a very small portion of Rutland Township, which is like most of Pingree Grove and a little piece of Huntley.
Okay.
So if people's address on their IDs is within, so I actually have like a site I can go to and type in the address and it tells me the township. So that's one of the first things I do, because I get calls every day, unfortunately, from, people in Chicago or Rockford or Wisconsin, or sometimes people move here from another state, believe it or not, and don't have something, planned as far as where they're going to stay. So those are really tough, especially when they just show up here, but yeah, so that's our service area. Also our max capacity right now, because since COVID, is 32 guests. And also our success rate for our program is about 83% our last fiscal year.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that's pretty impressive too. And another thing that I think is impressive is we have 13 employees that run this shelter 24/7, which I think is pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, that is.
It is to be here 24/7 with that few number of employees. Actually, right now it's actually 12, but eventually it'll be back up to 14 when we get those other 2 people hired. So that's PADS in a nutshell.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. And where can people reach you if they have any questions?
Our main number is on our website, but it's 847-608-9744. And we actually just got a new phone system. It's not even a week old yet. And that directs you, it's got all the different prompts you got to listen to, but a lot of the calls, like general information, comes to me, donations and volunteers. Another thing I forgot to mention, all of our meals, because we don't have like an official kitchen, we have like a warming oven and a big counter and a big refrigerator and some freezers, but our sink is not in that room. It's like in the next room. So all of our meals are actually brought in already prepared. So every day somebody brings dinner to us. We have like an ongoing calendar where this church brings it every first Tuesday, and then this, the Moose or the Lions Club or whatever brings, first Friday or whatever. So we have this schedule that just repeats itself every month. So, yeah, but that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know that I might have to come in on to some of those days. It'd be just like clockwork. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much. And
Yeah.
other than that, that's about it for the interview. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. And yeah.
Okay.